Me and my friend were talking last night. And the question is darkness and negativity necessary for growth and for expansion, if you want to call it that? And I realized I don't think it's necessary. I think there's something in the darkness that you are still choosing, that you are still attracted to. You're still curious about it. You still want to learn something more about it. Or a better word is experience more of it. And I think it's about wanting to experience a different perspective. That perspective, the perspective of darkness. Dark and light, they're not really opposites. They just are. Seemingly for the ego, they are opposite of each other. But when you're in the source consciousness or the more expanded vision perspective, you see that they both just are. And what do I mean by that? The negative polarity is only possible from the ego perspective, separation consciousness. Duality exists, or the contrasts exist only because that's what the ego perceives. Or even better, even clearer, they exist regardless, they just are. But the ego, the mind, perceives them as negative or positive. And that's the thing that creates duality. The perception of them not being the same, not just being an experience. Do you see that? So when I say that negativity or the dark negative experiences, as the mind chooses to label them, or the dark and negativity, let's separate the label from the experience itself. It's not necessary for growth because you can gain the experience without the label, and you will have an expanded experience. You will gain that experience regardless of the label you place on it. The mind has this need to know it all, to have overview over it all, to understand everything, to give meaning to everything. And so naturally, it will take every experience and it will place meaning on it, place a label. It will put it in a certain category: dark, light, positive, negative. I like this, I don't like this. And in and of itself, that is an experience, yes, because you experience what it feels like to be in separation consciousness versus unity consciousness. But it's not necessary for anything other than the mind understanding the difference between these two and getting the need of having to put it in a certain box fulfilled. So it's really not about anything being necessary. It's really about the mind choosing that experience. But yeah, it's it's really not necessary. And then, well, he said something that he has the need to come down from that expanded experience every now and then. And I think that the need is kind of a calling. And I think it's just a part of the adversity of the life experience. So it's, again, can you see? It's something you choose. It's not something you need or have to do. It's not something that is necessary for your experience or your expansion. It's it's just it's just almost like an addiction, like the mind telling itself, I have to go there in order to understand it. But then you see, when you actually expand your vision, regardless of the experience you're in, when you expand your vision, you see that you have a different and a more expanded understanding or knowing of what it is. And it's actually even the opposite, because when you're in the dark or the negative experience, or the when you're in separation consciousness, you're actually not seeing the greater perspective. You can only see it when you come out of it. And one could say that the reason you see it is because of the contrast of negative and positive, and you were there and you could see how dark it felt, and then you come out and you can see how expanded it feels, and that in itself gives you the perspective shift. When you're out there, when you're out in the expanded unity consciousness, or away from separation, when you allow yourself just to be, you can see that the thought of the dark being necessary is an illusion. It's something the mind is telling itself when it's in there, because it doesn't see any other choice. And this is why the question is also, is there a choice or is there not a choice? Because when you're in there, you don't really have a choice, or it feels like you don't have a choice. And it really is a place of no choice when you're acting out of blindness. When you're out, you can see that you have a choice always, but you can only have this choice if you see it. So it's a matter of seeing or not seeing, believing in the illusion and not believing in it. And that's it. Darkness and negative experiences are not necessary for expansion. Because you, again, because you are already expanded. You are already it. You are already consciousness and source incarnate in this body. Choosing this narrow experience, the fractal you chose for this journey of life. And you have access to this expansive perspective. But you're choosing to go into the narrow perspective. And you're choosing separation consciousness, not out of the necessity of it, but out of the curiosity of it. You're curious. You just want to see a different perspective. You just want to experience a different version of reality. Does it make sense? I hope it does, because it really seems clear to me right now. And I'm saying this from a place of having been through a lot of darkness lately and seeing, perceiving life from scarcity, lack, separation, you versus me, consciousness. And that's just the mind playing tricks on itself. The mind believes that it's necessary. The mind believes that there's no choice. The mind believes in the thoughts it's thinking, creating. Because since everything is one, we are all connected to the same, narratives. And we always have to choose which narrative feels true to us. But if we are not choosing from a conscious place, then it's just being chosen for us. or the choice happens by default and by the default setting of the mind. Because the mind can be programmed to only see negativity, and it can be programmed to only see the positive, or not see separation. You know what I did there? Did you see that? To not perceive separation, to see it as an experience and not giving it a labels, to not hang its experience on to the labels. And this is, can you see this spiral? And the experience only happens for the mind to see what it's believing in. It's literally just reflecting to it its own perspective, its own programming, if you like, its own tendencies. And that is the very thing that allows the mind to experience darkness and what it chose to experience. Except when the mind is in the dark place, or the separation, lack, negativity consciousness, it doesn't see the wish fulfilled aspect of it. It only sees more negativity. It only sees itself as a victim, separate from the sovereign being that it's serving, which is the fractal in you, the source in you, the creator in you, the consciousness in you. You're it. And you're choosing it from a conscious place, which you may or may not be awake to right now. And I want to add, how is this realization useful to you? Well, if you see that it's the label creating the meaning, creating the suffering, then it might be easier to realize that attaching labels isn't useful. Not to gaslight yourself and bypass suffering, but to understand that a big part of the suffering is the label, the meaning you give to the situation, the believing in separation, believing that you have no choice, believing the mind having the thoughts and the beliefs and the projections and the labels. And when you see that, then a lot of the suffering may fall away for you, and you might be able to choose differently. You might be able to easier let go of the experiences that aren't giving you joy, that feel like suffering, and you may suffer less in the situations that you can't just exit, simply because of a different perspective. And it's perhaps easier to find a different meaning, a different narrative that is more helpful and useful, that is more expansive. Because you can do both. And both are true, depending on the perspective you're viewing it from.